Several former WWE superstars are set to sign with AEW, with one making their debut last night on AEW Dynamite. All this and more in today's AEW News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into today. So there is so much. I mean, I usually say that at the beginning of every video, but it's true. There are so many things to get into today. You can see the news right there in that we have some new signings coming into AEW in the very near future. We saw one make their debut last night on Dynamite as well. So let's get straight into the stories when it comes to All Elite Wrestling. Now, former WWE superstar Swerve the Realist, aka Shane Swerve Strickland, aka Isaiah Swerve Scott, is reportedly indeed headed to AEW. You can see it on the screen right there. Now, there have been rumors when it comes to Swerve and AEW for a while now, with the company having a strong interest in the former WWE superstar, former NXT North American champion. But Fightful Select is now reporting that Swerve is expected to begin with AEW during the first week of March, that being next week. It was noted that AEW officials reached out to see about bringing Swerve in shortly after his WWE release. Of course, WWE released the former Hit Row leader on November 18, along with several other budget cuts. AEW reportedly sees Swerve as a potential crossover star. There have been numerous AEW stars discussed for potential Warner Media shows over the last year or so, but nothing is official as of right now. So it's significant. Very significant, and Swerve actually responded to this AEW report with a winking face emoji, pretty much saying, yeah, it's true. So we'll talk about Swerve coming in a second, but he's not going to be the only person coming into AEW in the near future, because Jeff Hardy has said, quote, he's going to AEW, which is pretty much dead on, isn't it? Now, of course, since his release by WWE in December of last year, Jeff Hardy has been heavily rumored to be joining his brother in All Elite Wrestling. Now, Jeff is currently under a non-compete clause with WWE until March 9, with Jeff's non-compete clause coming to an end soon. The charismatic Enigma announced that he and his brother Matt would be bringing back the Hardy Boys to wrestle a reunion tour starting on March 12th at a big-time wrestling event in Webster. Now, with the news of him teaming with his brother again hitting the wrestling world, a deal with a major promotion seems inevitable. Now, Jeff Hardy was speaking with Jared Myers backstage at his own concert, and Hardy flat revealed that he is, quote, going to AEW, and shared excitement about becoming All Elite. He said, quote, I'm going to AEW. I'm so excited. Until this morning, I didn't really know. I'm so nervous and excited. So, seemingly, Jeff Hardy said, yep, it's done. I'm going to AEW. So, it doesn't really get more official than that. So, let's take it bit by bit here, and I'll try to be relatively quick, because like I said, there's so much to get into today. The Isaiah Swerve Scott one, it felt inevitable. I think that he's a major pickup. For ages in NXT with Isaiah Swerve Scott, I didn't really get him, to be honest, for a while. This is prior to the Hit Row stuff. I think he challenged for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship about 1 million times. Good worker, but it felt like he was just missing something. And then he found the Hit Row gimmick, and then bang, I got it. I think everyone went, this is not just a great gimmick, this is current. This is 2022. This is, like AEW officials think, it's crossover appeal. This guy can be making albums. This guy can be doing so much stuff, and he's got that cool factor. And it's just, I said, it's 2022. It's modern pro wrestling. My biggest concern with him in Hit Row in the WWE, specifically when they were gonna go to the main roster, this is even when they were in NXT, I went, my concern is the guy that runs the company is a guy in his 70s who thinks it's 1985. And also you've got Bruce Pritchard, a guy in his 60s who's the executive director of both the big television shows. He's in charge of the creative direction of the product. How on earth are they going to understand what this guy is bringing to the table in terms of a gimmick? How are they going to get that? And they didn't, because they were gone relatively quickly. Now, I'm not saying Tony Khan's this all-seeing genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's got enough wherewithal to probably say, you know what, this guy was onto something. It was popular. People liked it. And if we give it a bigger platform, if we expand on it and we say, look, there's so much you can do with this, that's money. That's license to print money. So I think he's going to be a great fit for AEW. I really do. Now, is he going to be AEW World Champion? Who knows? TNT champion, I could absolutely 100% see that. And then who knows what can happen? Who knows how over anyone could get in a company, right? Steve Austin got fired from WCW and then became Stone Cold. I'm not saying Isaiah Swerve Scott's going to be next Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm just saying anything's possible. Jeff Hardy. It's not really surprising. The only surprising element about the Jeff Hardy story is the fact that he came out and said, I'm going to AEW, which I'm sure AEW probably aren't thrilled with, considering technically I'm not even sure if they're allowed to speak to Jeff Hardy right now, considering he's still technically under contract to WWE. Certainly nothing signed by any stretch of the imagination. He could just say, look, I was joking, I was saying it in jest, but to be honest, Matt Hardy's been teasing it for weeks on social media, and they're obviously building to it on television, with Matt Hardy becoming more and more frustrated with Private Party when they were eliminated last night in the Battle Royale. He just looked shocked, and you heard the chants of delete. People want to see the Hardy Boys reunite, but I think they want to see the Broken Hardys reunite, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Matt Hardy snap, revert into Broken Matt, and we're going to see Broken Matt with Brother Nero, and we haven't seen that since 2017. We haven't seen that for 5 years now. So there's time. There is time in that one, and it's exciting. It's really exciting for that. So the whole Jeff Hardy situation was weird anyway when it comes to his release from WWE. I mean, a lot of us, myself included, thought it was Jeff Hardy's demons coming back to get him. Maybe it wasn't. Who really knows? But it looks like he's coming into AEW in the future, and certainly that's very exciting. Now, speaking of new names coming in, last night on AEW Dynamite, Buddy Matthews made his AEW debut. He's now All Elite. Now, this was reported throughout the week when stating that former WWE Cruiserweight Champion Buddy Matthews was headed to All Elite Wrestling. Buddy made his surprise debut on last night's episode of Dynamite on TBS, appearing after the lights went out completely following the Penta and Pac match versus the House of Black. Though he teased a potential rivalry with Malachi Black. Of course, they've got a ton of history. They're feud in WWE. They're great matches on Monday Night Raw. He instead joined the House of Black stable and helped Brody King and Malachi beat down Pac and Penta. After his appearance, Tony Khan took to Twitter and announced the official signing of Buddy Matthews. Now, the former Cruiserweight Champion was released by WWE on June 2nd, 2021 as part of those budget cuts. Since that point, he's popped up on a variety of independent shows. He competed against Okada for New Japan Pro Wrestling, was featured by MLW. Most recently, he was involved in the 2022 Battle of Los Angeles tournament, reaching a semi-final stage. I think a lot of people felt it was inevitable he would end up eventually in AEW. He did say that he wanted to work the indies and work some other shows before really committing to another company. Of course, when it comes to working for AEW anyway, they're very flexible when it comes to working indie dates and working for other promotions such as PWG or working for New Japan. So I'm sure he still has that flexibility in his contract. From an Impact Wrestling perspective, I'm sure they're probably a bit, that's one that got away. They really wanted Buddy Matthews. We heard several times Buddy Matthews coming into Impact Wrestling. They wanted him. And ultimately, he's gone to AEW instead. It's a great pickup. I'm a huge Buddy Matthews fan. I think a lot of people are. Just watch his matches, even before the matches he had with Malachi Black, or even before that match he had with Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Just when he was Cruiserweight Champion, he was killing it. And then he's got a great look. It's one of those ones, isn't it, with the WWE thing where you just don't get that. And I think he's great for the faction. My only slight concern, I suppose, is that for ages he was the disciple, right, of Seth Rollins. There's that whole Monday Night Messiah thing, and I suppose some concern might be, is this a bit close to that? They're not exactly the same, but it's like a cult leader in Malachi Black who's got his disciple followers in Brody King and Buddy Matthews, and I'm sure that's maybe something he's slightly hesitant with, but I think eventually they're going to face off, aren't they? And we're going to see great matches, and certainly with a bigger element of creative freedom, I think it will be slightly different anyway. One name that was teased or name dropped on AEW, now we don't know if this guy's coming into AEW, but it would be a great pickup, is William Regal. Now, William Regal was name dropped on AEW Dynamite by Bryan Danielson during a promo. He did a promo backstage with Tony Schiavone, and he was trying to make a point about the difference between who trained him and who trained his opponent, Daniel Garcia. Garcia was trained by 2.0, whereas Danielson was trained by the legendary Brit. This is what Danielson said, quote, "I had a great mentor in William Regal. He's hanging out with 2.0. Imagine what it would be like if he was training with someone like myself or training with someone like Jon Moxley. He would be at an entirely different level." Now, again, we don't know if William Regal is going to be coming into AEW. Certainly if he comes in, he's not going to wrestle by any stretch of the imagination. But I mentioned this when Regal was released by WWE. Every single pro wrestling company in the world would be insane not to reach out to William Regal and say, what job do you want to do? Do you want to be a talent scout? Do you want to be a trainer? Do you want to be on-air authority figure? He can do it all. He can do anything. And I would be stunned if AEW hasn't reached out. We know that Impact Wrestling's reached out to him. Tommy Dreamer said, I called him, texted him, said, if you want a job, it's here. It's just waiting for you. It's just a case of where he'll go. Ultimately, I do think he'll end up in AEW, and I do think that's a good thing. I think that, we've seen this. Part of the biggest problem with AEW is sometimes the lack of logic in matches. Sometimes not so much in storylines, but certainly matches and way things are structured, and they need experienced people backstage to say, no, this is how you do it. And Regal could also be on camera as well. Danielson's talking about setting up a faction. Now, I don't think Moxley will be part of that faction. I think that's for the storyline. But I think he would be open. Bryan Danielson, realistically, has he ever been the leader of his own faction? No, he hasn't. And I think he likes the idea of maybe Bryan Danielson, Daniel Garcia, maybe 2.0 are in there, with William Regal as the experienced guy on the outside of the ring. That's interesting. That is quite interesting. So keep an eye out for that one. That's certainly quite curious. Let's talk about Tony Khan. Tony Khan's been getting a bit ridiculed recently. We're talking about big announcements, major announcements, all that kind of stuff. Now, Tony Khan, the AEW president, addressed the, quote, massive announcement that he teased last week. Khan noted that he cannot make the announcement yet because the company is under a non-disclosure agreement as he works on the deal. He said, quote, I can't yet reveal the announcement, but hopefully I'll be able to soon. We're working on something massive. The legal team has us under NDA, so I can't reveal all the details. But suffice to say, we're working on something that's going to be really great for the fans, the wrestlers, and it's going to be awesome. Now, Khan noted that the announcement is different from the first Dance episode of AEW Rampage, where CM Punk made his expected but unannounced return to pro wrestling. Khan said that he cannot reveal a date or location for when he'll make the announcement, but that it's coming and it's a little bit different from anything the company has done. He said, quote, I'm so very excited, and I don't know exactly when we'll be able to tell the fans, but I know that it's coming very soon, so stay tuned to AEW. Stay tuned to AEW. I promise something big is coming. It's not like the first Dance where I can put a date and a time and a place on it and say that I'll know exactly when, but it is like the first Dance in that I know something big and important is coming to AEW, and I'm very excited about it. It's a little bit different than anything we've done before, but it's going to be awesome. So as far as that, I'm not sure. I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's a streaming deal when it comes to HBO Max, possibly with the shows going on there. It could be a stadium show. It could be something. I mean, who knows? It could be a purchase of another company, right? It could be Ring of Honor. I mean, who knows? It could be absolutely anything. I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that if it doesn't land in the way that people hope, and sometimes these deals never tend to, do they? They can never live up to expectation or hype. But if it doesn't land, he'll probably have to dial it back when it comes to the big announcement kind of teasers. But if it lands, people will say, man, Tony Khan's doing great stuff. So we'll keep our eyes peeled when it comes to that massive announcement from Tony Khan. I want to talk about MJF and his promo last night on Dynamite because it was incredible, to be honest. Absolutely incredible. MJF broke character in an uncharacteristic promo on this week's AEW Dynamite. He revealed he was constantly bullied as a child, subjected to racial epithets by his schoolmates. MJF mentioned how professional wrestling was his only motivation to get out of bed every morning. I'm not going to do the entire promo, but essentially it spoke about, again, his religion and how CM Punk was a hero to him. And when CM Punk walked out on WWE in 2014, MJF walked out on his dream, and then it was just a case of looking on Instagram and seeing CM Punk shaking the hand of Bryan Danielson back in the day, and it inspired him to get back into pro wrestling. And when you quit on the business, you quit on me, and he's got tears in his eyes and all this kind of stuff, and it was completely out of character. And then to close the segment, out comes CM Punk, and he's looking at MJF in the ring, and he's like taken aback. He's like everyone else. He's like, is this true? Is that true? And MJF's got a tear in his eye, and he says, yeah, it is true. And MJF said at the end of his promo also, you can quit on the business, but I'll prove that at Revolution, I'm not going to quit because I'm not a quitter like you. And it was brilliant. Now, first of all, it might all be true, that stuff. That I legitimately think, you've heard actors say when it comes to crying, they have to think of something to take them to that place. And I think that possibly what MJF was talking about was probably true. Stuff like that did happen. I think he said it in interviews. Some of that stuff has happened to him in real life. But like any true heel, you know for a fact he's using it to get in the head of his rival. And even if you want to not think about where the storyline's going or where that's going, the promo itself, I will hold up to anyone in pro wrestling today. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because when he comes out, he's a heel. Crowd hates him. Even when he's starting to talk, the first few minutes of it, the crowd hate him. And he's saying these things that happened to him when he was a kid. Some of the crowd start cheering because it happened to him. They hate him that much. By the end of that promo, everyone in the arena isn't sure. The same as CM Punk, they're like, I don't know what to do. Everyone's a bit uncomfortable. Everyone's a bit like, what? The guy's 25 years old and he's doing that kind of promo work. It's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And I thought it was tremendous. I really did. I thought it was such a great promo. And if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's great. The match for AEW Revolution between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson was made official. Of course, Bryan Danielson was in the main event of Dynamite last night against Daniel Garcia. After the match, Garcia's friends 2.0 came out to attack Bryan, which led to Mox running down for the save. Bryan grabbed a microphone, and Danielson said to Jon Moxley, so if we want to fight together, we have to bleed together. You want a match at Revolution, you got it. But don't be surprised if you're the only person bleeding. So the show went off the air with two of them facing off. This, of course, was the match that was meant to happen at Full Gear. But, of course, it didn't because Moxley went into rehab at the time. I think everyone thought this was going to go in this direction, but what a match. And we'll talk about the Revolution card in a second because, man, what a card that's set up for Revolution. And what a show last night, frankly, when it comes to AEW Dynamite. And there are so many matches on that Revolution card that could steal the show, and I'm very excited to see it. And I enjoyed anything that Bryan Danielson does at the moment. I think it's just tremendous. We have an update when it comes to Double or Nothing. In May, I was thinking about this yesterday because, of course, the Owen Hart Cup tournament is the finals of both the men's and women's tournaments taking place at Double or Nothing. And I was thinking the other day, when is Double or Nothing going to be? Because I know it's May and we're nearly in March. But several Las Vegas AEW shows were announced on Wednesday's edition of Dynamite. The biggest of the announcements is the return of the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Double or Nothing will take place Sunday, May 29, live from Las Vegas. This marks the fourth Double or Nothing pay-per-view event in history. The announcement has Double or Nothing returning to its original location for the first time since 2019. In addition to the Double or Nothing news, Dynamite and Rampage will both make their Las Vegas debuts. Dynamite kicks off an entire week of AEW events located in Sin City. Things begin with Dynamite on Wednesday, move to Rampage on Friday, and it ends with Double or Nothing's return on Sunday, as you can see right there. So it's going to be, and also as well, it's quite interesting because it's not taking place at the MGM Grand. It looks like it's taking place at the T-Mobile Arena, which holds 20,000 people. I've seen a lot of people saying, can AEW sell out? Because it's not going to be in the T-Mobile Arena 3 nights in the week. There's going to be a smaller arena, the Ultra Arena. I think it's about 12,000. But I've seen some people say, can they sell it out? Can AEW sell out a 20,000 arena in Vegas? I think the answer is yes. I don't know if it's necessarily from the entire Vegas crowd, but they're making their pay-per-views because they're quarterly. There's only 4 of them a year. A lot of people fly in. They're a big deal. And I have no doubts they'll sell out 20,000. I don't. Now, when it comes to Dynamite and Rampage, they'll probably be hoping the Rampage thing will be that they'll be in town for the Sunday event, so they'll probably sell out Rampage. Dynamite will probably do fine as well. So it's 20,000. It's a big deal. But I think that they can do it. I do think that they can do it. There was a Triple H name drop during AEW Dynamite last night as well by Eddie Kingston. Kingston would bring up Triple H during his face-to-face confrontation with Chris Jericho after Jericho agreed to their one-on-one match at the upcoming Revolution pay-per-view. Kingston implored Le Champion to bring his best version of himself at the March 6 event. He said, quote, wow, we got the match, great, but don't give me the Chris Jericho from the Mimosa Mayhem or the Chris Jericho who got thrown off the cage by MJF. Give me the Chris Jericho who was the first world champion in this company. Give me the one who bled buckets in Tennessee. Give me the Jericho who turned WCW upside down. Give me the Chris Jericho that your close friend, Levesque, hated. If you don't, I'm going to eat you alive. And just Eddie Kingston, there doesn't mean more to be said. Eddie Kingston's great. Every Eddie Kingston promo is great. What's the match going to look like between these two? I don't know. But the promo is pretty damn great. And I hope that it leads to Jericho turning heel because I think he needs to do something different. I've said that the biggest and best quality of Chris Jericho over time is his ability to evolve and change, and I think he's overdue. I think he's overdue evolving into something new. What that will be, I'm sure he's got ideas, but we'll wait and see. Speaking of Revolution, speaking of Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, as I mentioned, several matches were announced for Revolution, one being Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston, so that's official for the show. Another match was made official for the pay-per-view during a backstage segment. It will be Matt Hardy, Andrade El Idolo, and Isaiah Cassidy versus Sting, Darby Allin, and TNT champion Sammy Guevara in a trios match, which is a bit odd, to be honest with you. Again, I felt like for a long time we were going towards Sting and Darby versus Jurassic Express for the tag team titles, and they've pivoted to obviously having that triple threat tag team match instead, because Sting and Darby they're still the number one ranked tag team, I think. So I guess maybe they'll do that at Double or Nothing. Maybe that's what they might go towards. I don't know, but that one is quite surprising, I think. But the card's loaded. Absolutely loaded. Women's title match, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker. You've got obviously the tag title triple threat, Face of the Revolution ladder match, dog collar match, trios match, world title match, Adam Cole, Hangman Page. With all of the talent I suppose they've got on the roster, they absolutely should. We've also going to have a TBS championship match at the event because Jade Cargill is going to be defending her title against Ty Conti at the event as well. Cargill defended her title last night against the Bunny. When the bout was finished, she grabbed the mic from Tony and said, "Who's next?" After her 28 victories, Tay Conti's music hit, and she said she's not only next, but she's going to be one that beats her. She isn't. But certainly we have a TBS title match announced also for the Revolution pay-per-view, which is exciting. As I mentioned, we also have the Face of the Revolution ladder match, and we have a new name that has qualified for it because FTW champion Ricky Stark successfully defeated Preston Vance of the Dark Order to qualify for the Face of the Revolution ladder match at AEW Revolution. Of course, he joins Powerhouse Hobbs, Keith Lee, and Wardlow as confirmed entrants in the Face of the Revolution ladder match at the show. 2 more spots will be filled in the coming weeks. The winner of the match earns a future title shot from AEW TNT champion Sammy Guevara. It's a tough one to call in that. I mean, the argument could be made that Keith Lee wins. Ricky Starks could win. Wardlow would be maybe the most obvious one, considering he's getting a big push. That guy could be a former, could be a future world champion. Frankly, it depends. It really, really does depend, that one. I think that's a curious one because it's certainly difficult to call. I do think so. I mentioned the triple threat tag team match as well. Dynamite kicked off with a battle royale to determine who would be added to the AEW tag team title triple threat match. Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly ended up the winners, with Kyle O'Reilly being the last man after he eliminated, I think it was, who did he eliminate from the Young Bucks? I can't remember. Either way, Matt Jackson, that was it, who he eliminated from the Battle Royale. So they're going to be added to the tag team match. We're also going to have a match next week. The third team will be determined in a Casino Tag Royale match next week on the Go Home edition of Dynamite to be who's going to be that third team. One would assume it's probably going to be the Young Bucks. So we're probably looking at Jurassic Express versus Red Dragon versus the Young Bucks. I think Red Dragon wins it. I do. I really do. And then I think we get Red Dragon versus Sting and Darby at Double or Nothing. I think that's the direction that they're going in. It could be wrong, but I think that's the direction that they're going in when it comes to that one. I have a bit more of an update when it comes to Cody Rhodes. I mean, it's not a huge update when it comes to this. It's just a case of Dave Meltzer summing up Cody Rhodes' mindset when he decided to leave AEW in one simple sentence. Reportedly, Cody Rhodes felt that it was, quote, time to leave the territory. And reportedly, that was Cody Rhodes' decision. I don't know if I truly buy into that, it was just time to leave the territory situation. I think it was a case of he didn't get what he wanted financially. He wanted parity, I think, with some other people in the company. That's been widely reported. And he didn't get it. And now Cody Rhodes is going to WWE. And that still feels quite a surreal sentence to say. They've already begun teasing him on WWE television. And Cody Rhodes is going to be coming into the company very, very soon. Dynamite next week. Some big matches announced for Dynamite just days before their clash at AEW Revolution. Of course, next week's the Revolution Go Home show. World Champion Hangman Page and number 1 contender Adam Cole will meet in a trios match. Cole will be alongside his teammates Red Dragon to take on Page, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order. Of course, we're going to see that Casino Battle Royale as well. So we're going to have some other things, I'm sure, announced during the week too. But it feels crazy how quickly Revolution has kind of crept up upon us. It feels like the show's really been announced in the last week or so, doesn't it? Finally, we have an update when it comes to what to expect for Rampage on Friday as well. Of course, spoilers are out there, but we're not going to talk about that here. Several matches have been announced for Friday's AEW Rampage, including a TNT Championship match between Sammy Guevara and Andrade El Idolo. Despite what happens in this match, as I mentioned, it's been announced that Guevara will team with Sting and Darby Allin to face Andrade, Isaiah Cassidy, and Matt Hardy at AEW Revolution. It was also announced that a Face of the Revolution qualifying match between Orange Cassidy and Anthony Bowens will take place on Rampage. One of the two men will join Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Stark, Keith Lee, and Wardlow as the fifth man in the ladder match. So as I mentioned, guys, there was plenty of news stories today, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.